BooTube recommended channel for you. That's what I saw on my YouTube feed. It looked harmless enough as I looked at the thumbnails below. It looked like some sort of weird, cheap, ghoulish puppet on a black backdrop. I love, or rather loved, goofy old shit like that, as my subscriptions to the Everything is Terrible and the New Uncle Gregory Horror Hour channels could attest to. So why the hell not check it out? I clicked onto the channel. The logo looked cheap enough, like something the first year web design student would cobble together with a pixely.jpg of the weird ghoul, and the title done in Comic Sans. The phrase, "we all like to watch," was written beneath it, as if it meant as some inexact innuendo. I pressed on one of the videos titled QQA27 and the video popped up. "Greetings, fraidies and gentlemen," the thing on the screen said. This was the first time I looked at him very closely in that shitty video quality that looks so real it looks cheap, if you get my meaning. His face looked like something leering, distended mix between Ghostface and Mr. Punch, spray painted a shiny metallic silver like taken from a mold of some rubber. Overpriced Halloween mask repurposed to create this crappy puppet. His lips flapped barely in sync with the words he spoke. The rest of the puppet looked no less cheap either. A red cloak-like shroud with the two arms, obviously the gloved hands of the puppeteer, sitting beneath the desk where the thing sat. Air from what I presumed was a cheap fan billowed beneath him, presumably to make it look like oh so spooky. "Today," the ugly thing continued, "we've gotten track of a very special video, a showing of what happens when one whistleblower hears another whistle blowing." Its voice had a screechy, nasty quality to it, like that one guy from the old G.I. Joe cartoons. Then there was a jump cut to a stark, grainy video, obviously a low-quality camcorder rip, taken from what looked like a hilltop. It was of two men, one wearing a crude green monster mask and the other bound and gagged and being tied to what looked like train tracks. There was a much clearer silhouette movie in the corner of the video of what I assumed was the host, watching like a peanut gallery at the theater. "I've heard of someone getting run on the rail, but this is ridiculous!" At that awful pun, the sound of canned laughter came in from all around him. The man in the video struggled against his binding with muffled screams, obviously captured on the crappy microphone. "Looks like it's time for him to complete his training," the host said smugly. Again, more canned laughter. Two lights on the track came into view. "Looks like our guest of the hour is poking his headlights into the fellow business. But what does the locomotive does he have? Let's watch." Just as suddenly as the shitty puppet host said that, a train came into view, and in a split second, it plowed right through the man on the tracks. A wet, meaty sound came from that shitty microphone intermixed with the train's whistle. "Now that's what you call a gristle stop tour," the host said, as the audience erupted in uproar. I pressed pause. Holy shit, those were not special effects. I'd seen special effects before. I also seen real deaths on film before with none of that splatter or rubber intestines, just a crunch of steel through meat and bone, and the subtle squish of gore and blood. I pressed pause on the video, and that's when I noticed something. In the windows of the train, a passenger train, as it passed by, all of the passengers were wearing the same green monster mask as the person who tied the man onto the tracks. Every single one of them. All of them looking straight into the camera. Holy shit, I was watching a snuff film, probably for some sort of fucking insane death cult that had somehow wormed its way onto YouTube. Oh Jesus Christ, this was horrible. I immediately clicked the flag video button. Nothing happened, but a tab popped up and I clicked on it. It looked very crude, like something out of a 90s angle fire or GeoCities website, but the website was written in some sort of novelty Halloween font that I couldn't copy. The background was a clip art .gif of a dancing skeleton repeated over and over with that same crappy .jpeg of the host in front, and there was a text below it. It read, "So, you thought you could give us the axe, didn't you? Give it your best stab, but you did a real cut-rate job of it. Maybe you should bury the hatchet and stop trying to cut the heart of the matter before you slice off more than you can chew. Or should that be our sliced off?" I closed the tab. I couldn't believe it. They were not only running the snuff film in operation in plain sight for whatever shitty pun death cult that they were running, but they had the audacity to break into Google so no one could whistle blow on their operations. I couldn't just do nothing, so I hooked up to a VPN server, turned on the necessary security programs, and turned on my video capture program. By God, if I had to take this thing down myself, I would. But first, I had to gather evidence. I attempted to take a look at the previous video. It wouldn't play, and most of the methods I tried took me to that stupid warning site. Fine, I thought to myself, play it your way. I'll capture the rest of your shit. Next video I looked at on the channel was titled 304AR. I pressed play. That stupid puppet popped up yet again. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have some more special footage for you. Yes, sirree. It's gonna be a bonfire tonight, though, for this poor schmuck, it looks like it's more of a boned fire. Because you all like to watch, now don't you? The video switched to the same shitty quality as before, but this time in a dingy basement. The poor subject this time was a woman tied to a wooden chair, rope holding from her head to toe, and her mouth gagged with rags. She looked wet, covered in something oily and caustic. "Boy, this looks like it could be a real gas," that silhouetted host said. That laugh track's still there. I swore as he spoke. I could see something twitch in the background. A cat? No, those legs look too long for a cat. As I was thinking about this, something lit on a trail of gasoline, the fire spreading far slower than it should on raw gasoline. The woman struggled and kicked in fear, and even though that shitty microphone, I could hear her muffled screams. "Oh, what's wrong? I thought you could spare a little pyre," the host said. The thing in the background shimmered a little. It was looking more like a man, but human limbs didn't move like that. Human limbs didn't glow like that. "Well, at least he should bring out a whole new flair in your style," the host said as the fire inched even closer. The man-cat thing in the background twitched even faster as the flames licked down its body. Finally, she burst alight all at once. I felt like I was going to vomit, seeing her skin scab and peel and burn and burn and burn as she kicked against the ropes that refused to yield, and as her flesh burnt deeper and the gag fell apart, I could hear her scream louder and louder. "I guess we should rename him Bernie now," that stupid puppet said, laughing uproariously at his own joke as the canned laughter howled along. The thing in the background just looked with its white, hot eyes. I couldn't shut off the video fast enough. I switched to another video. Special effects, I thought. The cat thing must be a special effect for whatever death cult they're running. The next video was titled 70AL5. "Greetings, ladies and gentlemen," flapped that ugly puppet through its ugly lips. "Today's entry is especially inspired. An entry so beautiful that it makes me want to sting. Let's watch." The picture shifted to a dingy, one-room, seemingly abandoned apartment. Same grainy video, same shitty mic. This time it was a man tangled up in what looked like thick, gooey ropes, more of which were strung throughout the apartment in an angular pattern. He was struggling, trying to get out of the gooey strands entangling him. Don't wreck your brain too hard trying to get out, guy. You might hurt something, the host said, and again, there was a laugh track. Suddenly, something crawled into the frame. A spider? No, it only looked like a spider. But spiders didn't have shaggy hair like an eight-legged mutt. Spiders didn't have blunt, human-like teeth. Spiders didn't have only two human-like eyes. Boy, what bug did you got up his butt? Quipped that leering puppet host as the victim to be was yelling curses at the spider. It wasn't a puppet. Puppets could never move that fast. Puppets never move that freely. Puppets couldn't wrap up people up in silk like that, as they struggled, screaming and gasping for air, as they looked into the eyes with cold cruelty. Whoa, whoa, whoa! It's too early to call it a rap, buddy, the host said as it finished rapping. It scuttled, pausing and looking around. Then it sank in its human-like jaws into the squirming, wrinkly cocoon, green, sizzling spit oozing out of his chin as it tried to chew it, deep red blood trickling slowly out of the wound until the wriggling slowed down, and then came to a stop. I guess she really wanted something to venom on, the host said, and the audience howled with applause. I pressed pause as the spiders started sucking, but then I noticed something. There was a mirror where it had been filming, and in the camera was reflected, but there was no one behind it. I spent the rest of the night looking through and recording the rest of those videos until about 2 a.m. As I looked through them, more weird things about the horrible, horrible puppet host, like how that cloak of its moved in sync with when it talked, how it sometimes added, "Because you all like to watch now, don't you?" to the end of its quip monologue, how no matter how shady and fumbling the gloved puppeteers of the hands' movements were, you never saw his uncloaked arms, how sometimes before the monologue it'd just be staring at the camera or talking to someone just off screen. And the deaths, oh god, there were so many. A few of them were power tools, blunt instruments, heavy machinery, but most of them were monsters. Monsters like anything that Roger Corman could have shit out of, or worse. Monsters like man-eating piano with a cow's legs, a giant crab filled with piranha-toothed human babies, a clown that turned into a giant man-eating worm, a great pink razor-tongued washing machine spewing out endless organs, and those were only a few. I think that I've stumbled onto something far more insane than I originally thought. I was about to go to bed when I saw something come up on my window, a new video from that channel, a live stream, in front of my door, with that horrible puppet. It was auto-running. Welcome, Freddies and Mentalmen! I'm afraid we have an intruder on our show, trying to cut us off. But don't you worry, Freddies and Mentalmen. We're not going off the scare yet. In fact, we have a very special treat. He grabbed a knife from off-screen, dripping with some dark brown blood-like substance, and gestured towards my door. We're going to have a nice talk with the interloper, and you all get front row seats because you all like to watch now, don't you? It said. I looked behind me. I could have seen the door rotting in front of me. I could feel a foul wind blowing through all the cracks, vomiting the rotten timbers on top of me. As it turned out, the stuff that the thing's knife was covered in was chocolate syrup, like the old horror movies, but that thing wasn't a puppet. Puppets don't float like cloth through the air. Puppets don't float on the wind from nowhere. Puppets didn't have an endless, gnawing darkness floating behind them. Puppets didn't drool chocolate syrup out of their mouths in anticipation. It stalked towards me, bonelessly flowing, face contoured into the horrible leer, and as it came in, it said, "Knife to see you!" And I laughed.